All right, so let's see. Are we here yet? Hello. Am I in the right time zone? We have see somebody's out there. Here we go. Look at us. It's on time. We're actually working tonight. Yay, we're all coming in here. Hello, 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 hello. All right, hold on. Just keep coming in, folks. Get yourselves comfortable. Get yourself something to drink. And let's see if the direct link to this works. That'll make me very happy. Oh, it might work. Let's see. Direct link. I'm gonna pin this to the top. See if I can pin this to the top. And it's not gonna let me go. Pin the comment. Let's see if that works. All right. Alrighty. Well, look at that. We actually got a good start. No migraine. And the only thing that's more annoying than me when I have a migraine is me when I don't have a migraine. So fasten your seatbelt. All right. So we're going to talk about Wonnezeit tonight because I don't know if you've all noticed, but in the past week or so, there's been a real flurry of activity around this observance, and I'm kind of actually excited about it because some of the stuff has not really been written out so much before. A lot of it has been written out, but put in so many different places that people can't necessarily find it. And plus, there's also evolutions of understanding of this as we're going along. And now, the particularly sad part of this, though, is that with all the writing that I've done and that others have helped with or done on their own or theorized or whatever, my brain is full. And while I usually have a mind like a steel sieve, it's all the little holes are kind of like clogged up by all the stuff that we've put out there in the last few days. So believe it or not, I am going to have to refer to the Urglaawe.net blog in order to be able to figure out some of the things that we wrote within the last 10 days, even though we discussed a whole bunch of them yesterday at Distelfink's Wonnezeit ritual. All right, so let me see. Up on Urglaawe.net, let me see. I want to just find that one particular little article. And before I do, I'm gonna actually answer one of the first questions that was asked, and that was Travis Terry's question: Is there beyond the mythological a difference in the celebration of Walpurgisnacht and Wonnezeit? All right. The entire purpose and the entire drive behind replacing ceasing to use the term Walpurgisnacht is because the term itself is it's a Christian term, and that's like defining one of our highest holidays by a different religion's context, and because Saint Walburga was Walburga of Neville, and I think we write about her somewhere, but she ended up becoming known for her work in the German lands, and ended up becoming Saint Walburga And one of the issues of Pennsylvania Dutchman or Pennsylvania Folklife has articles about it and everything, but some of the personality traits or some of the traits that are associated with Holla seem to have gotten grafted onto her, and that's not really a mistake since since even in our lore now, Walpurgisnacht is when Holla returns. So and remember, Holla is one of the Germanic goddesses that was criticized by one of the Catholic churches. I have to dig that log up, and I'll post it in the questions thread after we're done. So for us, it's actually even less mythological than it is contextual. I have an issue with using Christian terms to define our own holidays, although they don't seem to have a problem with that. Otherwise, Easter may not be named Easter. Let's see. So I have, because of the link I put up. Let's see if I can get this down a little bit. Okay. All right. So like when we first started doing this, we referred to it as Walpurgisnacht. And because in my Brockerite training, even they were saying Walpurgisnacht, that was when Holla did a return to this realm, and that was the witches' dance, all that stuff. The Hexatons takes place up at Hexenkopf, and but as research went along, let's see something here. Every time I hear the ding, I gotta check and make sure that somebody's not messaging me and saying, "Hey, we can't hear you." Although I'm talking so loudly now, Japanese pearl divers could probably hear me. Yeah, and okay. Sorry, I have a little guest here who's starting to get on my nerves here. Oh, I love you, Misty. She keeps gnawing at my finger on the board. So we decided we had to kind of pull away from that a little bit. Now, hexatons was certainly a viable term, but the thing is, the hexatons is only actually one particular part of the whole observance. The observance of Wonnezeit stretches from Walpurgisnacht, which begins at sunset on what's the month? April 30th, and ends at sunset on May 12th. And remember, the sunset on May 12th is technically May 13th, and that is when the frost giants attack again, because they've heard that Holla made it back. And the term Vona, actually it was Vonadance that we originally heard, was actually provided to me by a Hexerite practitioner from Montour County, and that is what she referred to as the hexatons, or the dance of the witches on Witches' Night. And so I then discovered a couple of minor, very vague references to, Vonanacht and Wonnezeit, particularly Wonnezeit more so than Vonanacht. And as we went along, we became much more comfortable with the Vonanacht and Wonnezeit, because this was within our own context, rather than it being like this, this freaky witches festival, which can be actually. I mean, freaky witches festivals can be fun, but it's more the entire story of the joy coming back into the land. This is a time of exchanges, and the exchanges, like, there's several levels flip. It's kind of like if you're approaching 100,000 miles on your vehicle, all those numbers are going to switch when you hit the 100,000. When you hit April 30th, that's right about that sunset time. That's when the dark half of the year ends. The bright half of the year begins. The sisters embrace Holla and Berchtha, and and they change their roles, and the whole world begins to dance in joy. I mean, it's a very lovely sounding thing, and it's a very joyous occasion. I'm going to actually post the link here because I actually have it open. I did have it open. Yes, I do. To the Vonanacht and Wonnezeit myth, because I don't know if everybody's read it, but it kind of encapsulates much of the lore that surrounds the entire process. when the hunt begins, which one of the terms that we use in I was gonna make a little recording of some common Wonnezeit terms for everybody. I will do that later on, but when the wild hunt begins, which is one name that's used in Deutsch, the other name is Geisterschutz, which is the parade of spirits. When that begins at Urglaawe Live Siwwe, Holla takes off from this realm, and Bertha and Vudan start roaming all around here, and that continues until Wonnezeit. Now, during that time, Hull is collecting the lost souls, the stray souls, the souls of the dead, whatever, and putting them into this bag called Immerraum, or the it always has enough space, which is actually being sewn by the spinning wheels on her wagon. Her wagon has 3 spinning wheels on them, and they're kind of each giving off thread, and the thread all sews together. Anybody who's a real artist, read that section, and you might want to see if you could take a stab at throwing out what the wagon pulled by the souls of 9 bulls looks like. But meanwhile, though, on this realm, people don't stop dying. I mean, Everger Jaeger is still out there and is a personification of death, but people also die by their own actions or diseases or whatever. So it is actually Berchta who's kind of collecting those folks. So we actually have 2 parades going on, but the one that captures the most attention at this point is Hulla's, partially because the spirits that she's capturing are the ones that have been removed or are missing from the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. This is one of the larger. I don't know a whole lot about a lot of Eastern philosophy, but one of the differences for us is that we're actually not trying to escape the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. We're actually trying to improve ourselves within it as we go along. And folks who do have more of a knowledge about that, if you once you understand Urglaawe philosophy, you can work with some of the leadership on it. You might want to actually do a little bit of a comparison between some of the Eastern philosophies and particularly those of Indo-European origin, and see how we differ, because we have certain similarities, but we have a lot of differences. And so meanwhile, Bertha has souls from this, who passed away since she took over here, but Hull is bringing this whole army back in. And so the Parade of Spirits is led by this character named Gudryer Eckhart. And on that questions thread in the Urglaawe group, I have down, Sophia had asked, is there any connection between Gudryer Eckhart and Vudan? Gudryer Eckhart is actually a hero of German legends, including the Nibelungenlied. But so I put a link in there to. Actually, I'll just paste it back into where we are, and then you can grab it right from there. This is a bit from Teutonic mythology, Grimm's Teutonic mythology, about Gudryer Eckhart. How do souls get lost? Some of them are. If you remember, there's attempted theft going on by the frost giants. There's the Holtzmann, who deludes souls into walking into the woods with him. There are several of these kinds of characters. Plus, there apparently are people. Think of it this way: why do we still have ghosts in this realm if ghosts are part of the soul? How do they get stuck here? Ghosts are lost parts of the soul. And sometimes, and Holla gives them the choice to stay sometimes. Some of them are parts of the soul that are not eternal, and they end up fading over time. But I'm getting off the main track. That is actually another discussion for another day. At Sacred Space Between the Worlds this year, we were supposed to be giving a presentation on Urglaawe soul lore, which is similar to other heathen lore, but maybe a little bit different. And actually, hold on a second. I got something here that is worth noting. As part of that project, I had asked Winifred Hodge Rose, who is probably the groundbreaker on doing the study of heathen soul lore, for some of her works, so that I could compare it and contrast it to ours. And she actually sent me everything, and that was kind of cool. And I'm hoping that we can get that done. Well, actually, we're going to have to get it done because we're presenting it next year at Sacred Space. But anyway, so what was I about to go? I was about to paste in a link to. Did I paste the Teutonic mythology link yet? No. All right. So Teutonic mythology, and paste it into the chat. All right. We're going to read about Gudrun Eckhart here a little bit. I pasted it into the chat, and I'm going to go over to it and start to look at it. The only link we really care about is the one that says page 934. And the chapter header says specters. Okay, and it's about how far down the page we first see it. Because you start to see him discussing Berka and Hola, and is that the right page? Turn over one more page. Help me out here. All right, well, I just screwed that up. Now I just lost it. All right. Anyway, so good dry record. Now it looks like I have the wrong page. I need to go back to the Urglaawe chat room. I had this prepared and I screwed it up. Right. Do I have the right page? 934. Yeah, that's the right page. 34. You know what? We're going to go to turn one page over. Go to 935. Just scroll down a little bit once you click that link. And in 935, actually starts before that. Yeah, it starts on the bottom of 934, but it's 935 that we're really going to focus on. All right, starting at the bottom of page 934 again. Here from Hulda, at the head of her spirit host, produces quite the impression of a heathen goddess making her royal progress. Right, so this is now page 935. The people flock to meet her and greet her as they did to Frey or Nerthus. Eckhart, with his white staff, discharges the office of a herald, a chamberlain, clearing the road before her. Her living retinue is now converted into specters. Eckhart, the trusty, a notable figure in the group of old Teutonic heroes, the Helden Saga, Reeve of the Harlung, and more exactly Eckevart of Kriemhild's Kämmerer, or Chamberlain, gets mixed up with the myths of the gods. Well, he certainly does. This one and Dietrich von Bern are some of our rarer hero stories that actually make it into Deutsch lore. A little further down, Eckhart goes before the furious host with Hulda. He is also doomed to abide till the Judgment Day, maybe a little Christian influence there, at the Mount of Venus. The identity of Hulda and Venus is placed beyond question. That mountain, some say I'm sorry, my vision's terrible and these glasses are awful. I can't even see what letters they got there. Husselberg, keep going, near Eisenach, is Dame Hulda's court, which here this all got transferred to Hexenkopf in a very interesting manner. So everything that I know personally about Gudrun Eckhart is related to Hola, not really Vudan. He kind of looks Vudanesque in his picture, which I got that saved somewhere here. Those of you who didn't happen to see it on the program, I have to ask Michelle if we posted the program for Wonnezeit yet. Eckhart. He kind of looks a little bit Vudan-esque, actually. Well, there it is. Hold on. Open it up and look at the picture. All right, we're having a little bit of slowness everywhere. Eckhart is it's kind of funny because my mother's maiden name is Eckhart, and I've always been drawn to that name. And the funny thing is, I've somehow missed something at some family dinner, either before I was born or maybe I was just not paying attention because I was eating too many sweet potatoes or something. But somehow I missed the fact that our last name, my mother's maiden name, happened to also match that of the uh, the loyal servant of Holla, who is also the Germanic psychopomp. Um, I don't know how I missed it, but I brought it up a few years ago at Thanksgiving, and I said, "Hey, do you all know this?" And then everybody else on the dinner table was like, "Oh yeah, we all know." But nobody told me. So it's anybody who's my Facebook friend, you'll notice that today I was at Giant. I was talking about how ironic it was that I'm walking through there. I can't find the Pennsylvania Dutch egg noodles. But that's kind of how I feel about the Eckhart thing. Um, that here we got a family name of a German hero, whom I also happen to respect greatly and feel drawn to his name. And I'm the only one in the family who somehow missed this until I was like 40 some years old. I can't quite get this picture to work. I'm just going to take a little screenshot. If I do that, though, it's going to leave the picture out. All right, I'm going to post it to the Urglaawe group later because I can't mess with that now. It's not coming up. That's what happens when you put me on stream of thought. All right, so let's see. So anyway, so Eckhart is one of our celebrated characters at Wonnezeit, and I kind of like it. Yeah, he's an interesting character. I haven't even really exhaustively researched him yet. Like Grimm gives these pages, some of these information here on pages 934 to 936, but they're very similar reports, and they match the Deitch lore pretty close. But whether he's ever been in the service of Udon or not, I've never heard that. It's always been an association with Holla. And as a matter of fact, I've actually considered changing my middle name to Eckhart because my actual middle name is Christopher, which means the bearer of Christ. However, Eckhart is the loyal servant of Holla, and my mother's maiden name is Eckhart. Boom. I feel a little bit closer to that at this stage of my life. So anyway, so that's a little bit about Eckhart. The Vananacht and the Wonnezeit myth that is, the link is pasted there again on the blog, is on Dyke's Mythology blog. Tells more about it and includes more about his role now as he leads the wild hunt every year. And actually, you know what? On the 934 to 936, I think it might be 936. Somewhere in here, there's some descriptions of the things that are seen on the wild hunt. I think we talk about that. Like, oh yeah, here it is. It's on 934. On page 934, let's say that I feel 6 Siwwe. About 6 lines from the bottom, you'll see they're describing the two-legged horse and some of these other macabre characters that are on this parade of spirits through the skies. All right, let's see. So, what else do we have now? Okay, so Vananacht. I tried to look for this before this started, but I couldn't find it, even though I know it's on the Urglaawe blog. The Hexanacht, Hexatans, and is part of the observance of Vananacht, but there's something discrete about it that I'm trying to find that keeps it a separate entity, and I know I got it here on urglaawe.net. But that is like the first thing that happens is the motion of the parade of spirits returning toward Hexenkopf here, and over in Germany would be like to Brocken, and its arrival when it first arrived down here, the beginning on Vananacht. That's when we have all these things that are supposed to happen. First off, spring cleaning ends, and I think we've written a lot about spring cleaning in the last few weeks. This stuff is the whole discussion of Wonnezeit and the exchange is on urglaawe.net. And I'm going to post that link in. I'm not going to read it now, but I'm going to cover certain points of it. I carry the title, but not the link. Blogger. Try this again. Let's copy the link. Copy link address. And boom. All right. So this exchange. The exchange is, again, on the mundane level, it's the sisters embracing, which is not mundane since goddesses are really not particularly mundane. And one note is that there is a difference in Deutsch and most Germanic lore in that many people see Holla and Berchtesgaden as aspects of the same goddess. Our lore specifically states that they are sisters, and now, if somebody believes that they are aspects, is that wrong? Not necessarily, because again, there are ways of viewing aspects of two aspects of a goddess coming together or something like that in a union, but we go with what our lore states to us, which is that they are sisters. So the last thing I did was sweeping my front porch, getting ready for the arrival. Now the problem with that, of course, was the pouring rain. As soon as I swept it off, it all blew back on. But you're still supposed to do it. And so once the Lensputerei, or the spring cleaning, was over, now we begin to focus on ending out the dark half of the year. And so let's see. Hold on one second. Somebody's coming in. Okay. So we talk about the clutter problem and all that stuff, and then we have the rules for what's supposed to be done by the end of Lensputerei. And next year, I know a lot of folks have been actually embracing this year, but some of you got to it a little bit late, like only a week or so before, and that was an awful short time to commit to getting the process done. Next year, once Groundhog Day hits, that's where we start observing spring cleaning. The list is going to be up here. I'm sure we'll drag it over for Entstehung also, and we can all try to work on this a little bit more, because I myself, and I freely admit this here, spent many years making a lot of offerings because my house was a disaster. Thankfully, it's not so much a disaster now. Okay, so what also happens at sunset on Wonnezeit is the season, if you will, of Osterzeit, or Eastertide, ends, and Wonnezeit begins. And then let's see, we cross from the childhood phase of the Wheel of the Year and into the teenage or young adult phase. This is reflected in minor fertility rites, remnants of those being things like cherry blossom festivals, and we just wrote the article and posted it yesterday about some of the suggested tree and plant blessings, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit. Let's see, the first observance of Wonnezeit begins on sunset April 30th as Wonnenacht, when the observances of the Parade of Spirits return to Hexenkopf is observed, and Holla and Berchtesgaden have this embrace and this little dance that dances away winter. Although the term, this is what I was actually looking for. Although the terms Wonnedans and Hexedans are often used interchangeably because they happen on the same night, there is one rite that is associated directly with the Hexedans that is not related to the Wonnedans, and that is the unfurling or disassembly of last year's Quetschebaum. Now, let's see a typo there. Yeah, I have to fix that typo. Or maypole. Technically, a Quetschebaum and a maypole are not exactly the same thing, but they serve similar functions, as you described in the myth of the Wonnedans. The energies and unfurling them and removing them from last year are commended back to the earth. That is specifically a Hexedans rite, not a Wonnedans rite, even though the Wonnedans myth mentions something like it. And we did do that this year, even though it was very difficult to do it, try to maintain our 6 feet apart. And I have to tell you that I did not ever realize how difficult it was to unbraid a Kvetcha bomb or a maypole when you're only 5 foot. When the tallest one is 5'7". So it's very difficult. So let's see. So sunrise on May 1st begins another observance within Wonnezeit, which is Mooifest or Wonnefest, and that's when the awakening, we do the celebration of the awakening spirits and the land and the plant spirits are livening up, and that's when that Kvetcha bomb dance it usually happens. So you take it apart on April 30th and you put it back together or reconstruct it with new energies on May 1st, May Day. So there's a lot going on there just in that time. Then, so then we expanded into the tree, shrub, plant observances. And the problem with this one is it's actually kind of difficult to do since there are so many plants and so many trees and not everybody has all of them. So that's one reason that we never really put this out before. Many of you, I'm sure your towns have things like apple blossom festivals, cherry blossom festivals, peach blossom festivals, and who knows how many others. And sometimes the dates of those can actually help you figure out when you might want to do a similar observance for the region you live in. And we took some of these I actually took some of these from the region of the Daichara where I'm from, and some of them from down here, some of them from talking to people, some of them from interviewing people, and came up with the list that is now up on urglaawe.net. Also, I just expounded upon this a little bit ago. I'm going to copy the link address and I'm going to paste it into the chat. Boom. I'm just going to call it tree shrub blessing dates. Okay, and this is just a starter list. This and where you, this is we talked about this also on the Urglaawe group. It is very important that we understand that just because we're saying up here in Pennsylvania that this is when we do our cherry blossom festival, that does not mean that if you live somewhere that your cherry trees are in bloom, a month and a half ago, that you have to wait until ours comes. No, when your trees are in blossom, honor the trees. When your trees are in bloom, honor the trees. When your tree is bearing fruit, honor the trees. Honor for what's going on in your local area in this regard. You can still, of course, join in on the macro level. This is a topic that we've actually talked about numerous times over the years, and not just within Urglaawe, but it's come up in other traditions of heathenry too. We live in zones, hardiness zone up here mostly is a 7A, 6B, down to like 5C, and there might be a couple places that go into 7B and here in Pennsylvania. All right, so that puts our growing, our growing season a little shorter than Virginia, a little shorter than, a little more short than Georgia, etc. So we have like the official dates that are based mostly out of Berks County and Bucks County and a few counties of Pennsylvania in central southeastern Pennsylvania or in Dutch country. But then everybody needs to kind of tweak those for where they live, because honoring your own land, the land where you live, the environment you live, and the land spirits that you deal with is paramount. That's very important. It's the same kind of like if Maggie in Australia, at Yule, it's like probably 80 some degrees outside because she lives in Australia and it's Soberon fog there. So there we would have to actually rotate the calendar, and everything would be 6 months separated. So at that point, we would have what we call like the orthopractic calendar, where all of us observe like on a macro level, this is what's going on, but on our local level, okay. So Urglaawe is currently in Yule, but here in Australia, Urglaawe is midsummer. But we follow the orthopractic calendar for what all of us are doing, and we follow the local calendar what happens in our region. And that's that calendar we're hoping will actually be out next year for the at least for like the centralized stuff. But I encourage people, of course, to participate on when we have something going on globally, or when we have one of our rituals online. Please join us for it. And but even if we're observing something like our haymaking, which lasts for a long time in July and August, your haymaking may have begun in June. So in the beginning of June, do your local haymaking ritual, Hoytfest, and then join us for ours. Just as to help build community. And hopefully I'm making sense because I'm being myself and switching topics. All right. So next up. So the Quetzalbaum. That word literally means plum tree, and whether or not we have actual ample proof of this or not, I don't know. But my guessing is because plums represent hope and are pretty durable and are among the first fruit trees to actually bear fruit. That is where that it was probably a literal plum tree from which the whole concept of our cognate of the maypole had arisen. And so that was that. We placed that honoring of the plum tree on May 1st. And then May 2nd, we do the dogwood. Now you should be harvesting dogwood if you live around here and you have a dogwood tree. This is now the dogwood harvest time, and they're pretty strong right now. So May 2nd is designated Dogwood Harvest Day. Again, if you live in a place where your dogwood started harvesting 2.5 weeks ago, you should have been out gathering them. Next year we'll prepare for that. May 3rd, we have the pawpaw. Many of you don't even have pawpaw where you live, so look for trees that might replace it, something that bears large kinds of fruit. Pawpaw is the largest fruit in the mango family that's native to North America, so it might be kind of hard to find something else other than that. May 4th, serviceberry. May 5th, crabapple and apple. May 6th, hawthorn. May 7th, magnolia. May 8th, blueberry and huckleberry, and that includes pruning. May 9th, blueberry and huckleberry. Oh, I think I said that already. Hey, I got something wrong. May 8th and May 9th. Oh, I'm missing something. We have a boo-boo there I got to fix. May 10th, I got to figure out which tree I'm missing. May 10th, cherry bloom and blossom and blessing, and May 11th, strawberry bloom and blessing, and May 12th is linden. Now, linden was kind of placed at the end there because of Gudryer Eckhart, because that's when he finishes his service in his service on the Parade of Spirits. But he doesn't sleep in the linden tree at Hexenkopf. He sleeps in the boulder at Hexenkopf. So I actually think that we probably need to knock that back up a few days, because Hexafeld is where it first lands, and that's where the linden tree that he is said to be told to sleep. He is commanded by Hole to go sleep in the linden tree at Hexafeld. So I'm gonna tweak that out a little bit, and then we'll fix that up. And I gotta figure out which tree I'm missing. That's disturbing. All right. It's also disturbing that I pasted it 3 places and still didn't notice that. So then what else happens during Wonnezeit? All right. So Wonnezeit, this is the period where you're supposed to be getting out and enjoying the company of people. Now, this is difficult right now, and I admit that a few of us were fortunate enough under the same religious code, religious exemption codes that they use for churches, that leadership of churches can get, they need to be in proximity in order to conduct rituals that other people can watch. So we took use of that. We had our masks on, and we did our Wonnezeit observance, trying to stay very try to be very COVID aware, but it just isn't quite the same. The processional was very short. Now, ironically, on the Wonnezeit processional, we usually do wear masks. Kind of funny. It's all come out in a COVID mask. And that processional is representing the return of the hunt and the following through of Allah's commandments that the the home should be in order, ready for inspection, passing between two fires. The passing between two fires is, in this case, representing like cleansing, but it's also kind of representing the light half, dark half thing switching there. And it was a little bit different. Just we're used to having a whole bunch of people do on the maypole, and there were 3 of us, no, 4 of us. There were 4 of us, and it took like only maybe one tenth of the time. I mean, usually there's 12 of us, and we're all knocking into each other and yelling over under as we get our ribbons entangled. That's kind of fun, but yeah, it's I can't wait until this particular period is over, but I just hope that everybody gets through that safely. So then, so it continues up until the night of May 12th. Now, from what we can put together from a couple different pieces of lore, we have 2 different stories that cite specific frost giant attacks, and one takes place in May and the other takes place in November. And in both cases, it's 12 days after something related to Hola happens. Like Hola returns from the Parade of Spirits on April 30th, and then the night of May 12th, the Frost Giants attack. And then up in October, the Hola departs on the wild hunt on October 31st, and then on the 11th of November, right after Everker Jaeger ends, Everker Jaeger takes the souls of many of the plants that are likely to be killed. Apparently, he kills them off, killing Frost, and then the Frost Giants attack again. So the conjecture, we have another partial story that I think is actually posted probably already in the Urglaawe group that indicates that it takes 12 days for the Frost Giants to go from the northern leaves down into Mannheim and to make their assaults. So I have to find that, and I'll post that somewhere. But I think it's either on Dykes Mythology or it's on the Urglaawe group as reporting their attack. I think it's on Dykes Mythology. I think there's 2 versions. Okay, so let's see. So that in short is Wonnezeit. Now the period, the Wonnejahrgang, or the time period, the season of Wonnezeit will go up until Zomeranfang, which is better known in English as midsummer. And this is the time, it really is, even if you can't get out and see people and everything like that, go outside and enjoy the air, the gardens, or whatever, and just embrace the sheer kind of like pleasantness of this season. Like just the fact that it's so warm out now, although it never really got all that cold this year, it brings joy to me, even though I'm not working as I normally do, and I really need to get out there. But yeah, the COVID thing kind of brought me down a bit too. Let's see. So let me go back to the questions here because I think I kind of covered most of the stuff that I have off the top of my head. Okay. That's question 2. Okay. Well, I think I've answered the 2 questions that are up there. Did I miss anything? Keep in mind, I can't really see the. I'm gonna unpin this comment because I can't see anything anybody else is writing. Okay. Right. Are there any questions that did not get answered yet? Because we got 15 minutes left. You can look that up in why is the sky blue? Very funny. More questions? Come on. We gotta have questions. Oh, I left one thing out. After the Frost Giant, this Frost Giant attack is the big one. This is your Butzaman training session. There are slight variations in the lore here, or the lore. Some say that once you build and activate your Butzaman, which can still be done, actually, guess who doesn't have a Butzaman yet, is that the Butzaman may already know how to fight the Frost Giants, but the far more interesting lore is that on the night of May 12th, which is, once that sunset happens, that's a new Urglaawe day, even though it's nighttime. that that the frost giant named Dreizedax, or 13 Badger, makes his assault, and he is beaten back by Duna, Duna. And then the next night, the other one named second one named Fatsefera, which actually means, it literally means 14 feather, but I found a particular variant of Deitch in which feta also means quill, like a porcupine quill, and that makes far more sense because the way they spell Fatse Feta could also mean 14 fathers, and there's no problem with 14. Well, I mean, I guess if somebody has 14 fathers, that could be a problem, but the it was the first time that one ever made sense because all these other frost giants have a name that's associated with the date that they attack, and then some animal that causes some sort of problem somewhere, and so then I was like, hey, that makes sense. We're going to go with that one. So Fatse Feta does his attack, and that night, that is when Duna trains the Butsaman to fight the Frost Giants. Then, now the funny thing about that does he train one, or does he train them all? Well, we believe trains them all. Then comes Fufze Fuchs, our 15 Fox, who is beaten back by the Butsaman, or the army of Butsamena. And I kind of think that was a much cooler, that brings a much cooler image up to my head, like a whole army of these Butsamans, their plant spirits coming out and fighting off these frost giants. That had to be an epic movie. But then on the 15th of May, that is the date at which our lore states that all tender plants can go outside. Prior to that, and actually, I think of the last 10 years or so, like maybe 8 of them in the Poconos still had some frost that night, or at least temperatures that were cold enough to produce frost. There were a couple years, I think last year was one of them, where we really didn't have anything like that, any problem like that. So that's Wonnezeit and Wonnezeit in a nutshell. Now, what we're starting to see here is that some of our older stories that came out of the research project fill in the gaps for some of the other stories that we have partial reports on, and we're missing some specific lore about Hoyt Fesh. Like there's no real direct folk tale per se, but there are folk practices that certainly reinforce some of the things that are included in Hoyt Fesh. We do have stuff for some Offong, which is again Midsummer in English, but so it goes right from the Wonnezeit myth, right through this myth of the frost giants, and then it kind of continues on into another story that is broken about Soma Offong, which does relate to the star-crossed, if you will, relationship between Suna and Moon, who in our lore are not siblings. They are lovers who are tricked by the trickster figure Shada into, well, actually, Shada actually tricks the god associated with sleep, Shlum, who may be blind, by the way, into blowing darts into one, the other, or both of them, and then Shada rearranges them in the sky and puts them where they are so that they cannot meet and have, consummate their love. Some of this sounds a little bit like the Balder story, and which wouldn't surprise me, but that stuff still has to be kind of fleshed out. And so we have a lot of these little myths and little stories that we're still working on after all these years, but we kind of took them in order of how they had, most had things. But then all of a sudden, we would discover an item, and this over here is related to an item in another story that had even less on, but all of a sudden it's like, hey, that makes sense. So the folklore research project is still going on, and we have a long way to go. Even with the stuff that we have now, even with all the stuff that's posted on the Urglaawe groups and everything like that, there's still a lot of research to be done within the stuff that's readily available out there, and so it's kind of fun in a way because it gives a little bit of purpose to everything. So, do we have any other questions about anything? Larry, thank you for posting Eckhart into the group. Sophia, thank you for posting that. Good, you found it. Then here they come. That's the Frostbite one. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to talk about? Got 10 minutes left. I gotta tell you, if these things were formal, I'd be stumbling on myself even worse. All right, let's see. So what else did people suggest? All right, so future topics. Let me see. I think Paul suggested moon lore. But I think I came across something that was even more interesting. I answered that one. Moon lore, sacred herbs of Urglaawe. All right. I'll touch upon this for a few minutes. In the poll that was set 22 hours ago for Urglaawe Live Siwwe, I had to ask folks for input about what topics they would like to see. And Wonnezeit I knew was going to be a base one, and a few people had suggested moon lore. And then we had the sacred herbs of Urglaawe. And let's see. I think I posted the Vimeo. I did. All right. We actually have some presentations up on Vimeo.com, which is Vimeo. And let me see if I can find my page directly. Because we have a whole bunch of our sacred space presentations up there. And we'll still talk about this stuff in these chats. I really kind of dig talking about them. But, and Robert Driver. Let me see if I can find my page, and then I'll post that link there. You're welcome to look through them as you wish. So how do I find my right. Vimeo.com/Urglaawe. That's easy. Vimeo.com/Urglaawe. Yes, because Hula is now governed. Monica's question was, I did my ritual a little late to honor Hulda at Wonnezeit. Is it still okay to do it after the 30th? Absolutely, because Hulda is now governing this realm, number one. But number two is, remember, the gods and goddesses are not beholden to our calendar. Our calendar is for us to be able to make sense of things and to bring context and to keep things in order. Really, most of our deities don't mind being honored anytime, I think. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, just like, again, most people built their Butsaman to be awakened in at Groundhog Day, and here it is now, only a few days away from the Frost Giants attack, and I haven't even started mine yet. Of course, it's also been hard to get to stores, but I'm also busy doing other things or being lazy. So yeah, don't worry about that. I mean, even yesterday. Because of the COVID thing, we did things a little bit differently this year. Usually we have, like our Wonnezeit ritual connects everything from April 30th through May 12th. Sometimes when we go up to Hexenkopf, we will focus solely on the arrival of the hunt, only on that first night. But that is still in Wonnezeit. Wonnanacht is still part of Wonnezeit, even if it's still part of it is still considered dark half until the sisters embrace. But this year we had a separate ritual because we had to meet together to unbind the or to take to unfurl the Kvetcha bomb, and then a couple days later, Saturday, May 2nd, we got together to do the maypole. So technically, we didn't even do the maypole on the 1st. So it's there are some rituals that we have to do on the day. All right, for instance, we really kind of had to do the tower ritual on April 30th, like, which again, so I think we did it April 29th was the earliest we could do it at sunset, because that becomes April 30th. But we did have to move it because of weather. But we could only move it in that certain time because we couldn't let it get into the bright half because we're trying to leave the things behind in the dark half. So we have some that have to be done on the day that they are. And we have others where we have, it's easier for people to get together on weekends, even because of work. And I'd rather we do the rituals together than not. there's again, so there's something you have to do on the date. There's something you don't have to do on the date, and you just go with what you have to do best. See, I got to do my Butsaman too. I'm telling you, because pretty soon all my stuff outside is going to be this year's crop instead of last year's crop. I have plenty of stockpile of last year's crop, and then let's see, there was one other thing I was going to talk about. I don't remember what it was. It was related to that though. Oh, well, we got 2 minutes. Are there any other questions? If not, I'm going to give you a 2-minute lightning round where you can type out your favorite Dutch words that you can't pronounce, and I will say them for you. Because I'm going to be doing this in a video anyway, but I want to know if there's any particular words that you folks are coming across, and you're reading them, and you're looking at them, and you're not quite sure how to say it. So I will throw one out there to begin with. So I can see the type. And like my glasses got scratched, and these are readers, and they are not working. Gedraaie. Okay, that's Gedraaie Eckhart. Gedraaie. Gedraaie literally means the loyal or the true, trusty, and that is akin to German treuer. But Gedraaie. Any other words that you all are wondering how the heck you say? There has to be a few of them. I'll throw more out. Can't spell it in English. Well, yeah, because in English it would be loyal, but actually trusty is the word that they use in a lot of the publications. I put some links in the questions thread to articles or information about Gedraaie Eckhart. There was one book that I never saw before that popped up in research tonight, and I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to order that one. How about, all right, this one, I'm going to have to say slowly because you're going to have trouble hearing it, but... Wonnezeit. Wonnezeit. Wonne means joy, and Zeit means time, so it's the time of joy. Oh, everybody's favorite. All right? Alle lieve Ziel. Alle lieve Ziel. Go really slowly. Alle lieve Ziel. Alle lieve Ziel. I love that word, actually. Anytime you see this character in Dutch, it is always a TS in German. Or Dutch. That's right. It's always a TS in English. So it sounds like a T. That is a hard one because we don't actually have words that really begin with a TS in English, except for maybe tsetse fly. So if you can say tsetse fly, you can say Alle lieve Ziel. But it's probably one of the most confusing ones. The sound the letter in Dutch that makes the sound Z is actually S, but even that's fairly rare because Dutch pronounces it more like an English S than German does. So a little bit of difference there. What else we got? There's got to be a few other words out there. My cats have decided that they're going to cause mayhem tonight, one way or the other. Die Geistlichkeit. Die Geistlichkeit. Spirituality, spiritualness. Oh, yeah, okay, let's see. Let's find some other good ones. Just from this season alone, there have to be several of them that are worthwhile. Because, again, there's so many little components. Oh, okay. For the future... Lensboeterij. Lensboeterij. Lens means spring. That's all it means. And boeterij means the cleaning or the cleansing, so it's spring cleaning. But the funny thing about this word is that that lens is the Dutch cognate of the English word Lent. Lent is not, the word Lent is not a Christian word at all. That's they took our word for spring and turned it into this, the 40-day, the name that they call the 40-day observance in the desert. So yeah, that's a fun one. I like that word. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of these words. So what I'll do is it's now 8 o'clock, so we'll release everybody. But I will actually try to go scan through the stuff from Wonnezeit that might have some hard to pronounce Dutch words, because I really do encourage folks to use Dutch when you can. You don't have to actually use it because many of you don't speak it, but it's kind of paying homage to the culture from which Urglaawe derived, number one. And number two, Dutch is actually the third most spoken language in Pennsylvania. And its numbers are actually growing, partially due to the Amish and Mennonite birth rates being so high. Like I saw something incredible recently where they said like a couple hundred years if our birth rates were to continue, says the guy with no children, if our birth rates were to continue, that we would be the dominant ethnic group in the country with the dominant language. But the problem is that Dutch is not standardized, and the lack of standardization causes many different variants to come up, and that frustrates us. And we're forming our own variant. I mean, Urglaawe Dutch is becoming a real thing because we actually follow what the grammar books say, and we follow one of the more standardized spelling systems that's out there. And that's a project we're gonna have to work on too. So let's see, I'm 54 years old. I figure that I have enough work to do until I'm like 133. So maybe we can actually get it done. All right, does anybody have any other last minute questions? Nope. Oh, okay, in that case, I am planning number 8 for next Sundag, and we'll take things from there. Thank you very much, everybody. Yeah.